Both are extremely dependent beings with no freedom. The child has no freedom and the old man has no freedom. Then who is a young man? Who is a young man?
As some people go tomorrow. There is a saying that yesterday is history, tomorrow is history, but what we have today is a gift. Yesterday is called present. And old mind always relies on his past to think like relies on his past to do something about his future. But as yet, we don't have to do that. We just have to realize what we have there is a gift itself.
That brings us to the young man. The child says, I cannot know. The old man says, I already know. What does the young man say? I want to know. And the moment he says, I want to know, knowing begins. This is real learning. I am learning. And I am learning every moment. So I am not drawing from memory. I am not drawing from memory. What does the child say? I cannot know. My apparatus is yet not right enough. What does the old man say? I already know. I have so much of experience. I already know. He never sees anything new. Everything that comes to him, he looks at it in terms of his past. So he actually stops seeing at all. The old man turns totally blind. He does not see anything. All he sees is his past, projected as the present. I already know. The young man says, I have the capacity to know and I don't already know. It's a beautiful state to be in. Repeat with me. I have the capacity to know. A deep trust in myself that I can know. My mental faculties are active. I do not need to depend. I can know. At the same time, I don't already know. I have trust, but I am not arrogant. And I have trust in whom? I have trust in my parents and society and the legends. Is that where the young man places his trust? In the society and in the legends? Where does the young man place his trust? In himself. I am not dependent on anybody. I place my trust within me. I can know. After all these legends were the first ones. That's why they are legend. Nobody ever became a legend by copying somebody, by borrowing from somebody else's experience. There has to be a first one. Why can't I be the first one? I trust myself to be the first one. That's the young man. I trust myself to be the first one. I am not born to emulate some legend. I am not here to further some tradition. If somebody could be the first one, why not me? After all, a series always starts somewhere. Why can't it start with me? He does not hate legends, by the way. He has great respect for legends. And why does he have great respect for legends? Because they were the first one. And when you have tremendous respect for the first one, do you want to become a copier? What do you want to become? You say, I have great respect for you because you were the first one. And because I have great respect, I also want to be the first one. That is what is meant by considering somebody a legend. But when you idolize somebody, you fall at his feet. Did that person fall at somebody's feet? Is Is that why he was a legend? Because he was crawling on his knees? But when you call somebody a legend, you want to crawl on your knees in front of that person. You say, oh, they are great names, unattainable, they are like Mount Everest. Who am I in front of them? If you say this, then you don't even respect the legend. To respect the legend is to become a legend. That is real respect. That is real respect. So who is a young man? I have the capacity to know. I am full of trust. I have that deep faith that I am placing in myself. At the same time, I have not become fossilized. I have not become arrogant. I have not become full of myself. I am open, very, very open. I am inviting the world from everywhere to come to me. I want to taste it. I want to know, real knowing, not second-hand knowing, not something that I have read from the books. That is a young man. Really. And yes, you can be 80 years of age, physical age, and still very young in mind. The body's age cannot be controlled. But you can remain very, very fresh and young of mind right till your last breath. That is the charm and the beauty of youth. And that is why youth is so rare. Because forget about remaining 20 when you are 80. We are 80 when we are 20. Now do you understand what I meant when I said that we never attain to youth? We are born a kid and then we straightaway become old. Young age never really descends upon us. We straightaway become old. Our body may look young, but that does not matter. The mind becomes old very quickly. Bodily, you may be 20 or 25 or 30, but mentally you are already 85. And that's a tragedy. We don't want that tragedy to happen, right? We don't want that tragedy to happen. We want to remain young and very, very young, as we said, till our last breath. Now we come to the second part, youth and architecture. I am not an architect. Yes, I am an engineer. I am a master's in business administration, but I am not really an architect. But what I understand is that what you people are doing is tremendously important and very, very beautiful. Just a few days back, at some point in the night, I was in this building and looking at all the pieces of art that you have created. It was wonderful. I can't claim that I understood everything, but I could sense a particular aesthetic beauty there. So for me, architecture is creativity. Does that put us on the same platform? Instead of saying youth and architecture, I will say youth and creativity. Is that alright? Or is the field of architecture anything other than creativity? It is much more than creativity. For example,
if you don't have a reference in architecture, we talk about references. Without references, none of our client is going to give us a project. He's not going to give a project first. But if we don't have any references, like I know how to use. If I don't know how to use concrete, I don't know how to use wood. How am I going to use it in my building? So it's just not creativity, it's the experience of using a material from our past or creating a new material with reference to our past and using the same thing in our building. So it's much more creativity.
There is nothing here which says that knowledge is useless. It is just that knowledge must be in its proper place and not encroach upon something else. We said that, right? That the proper place of knowledge must be known. Obviously, an engineer needs to know the uses of chemicals. Obviously, an engineer needs to know the prevalent techniques, the latest technology. But there are lakhs and lakhs of engineers who are knowing just the same things. That does not make them any special. So knowledge is necessary but never sufficient. And knowledge comes cheap. You know what? Today, medical science has reached a stage where just as you transfer data from one computer to the other, knowledge too can be immediately implanted in your minds. So cheap is knowledge. 2 electrodes can be fit here, and within a matter of 2 hours, knowledge of 1,000 of those will be available in your brain. Knowledge can be downloaded to your brain. So use of concrete, use of cement, knowing what this person and that person did, increasingly you will find that the function of education that deals only with accumulation of knowledge is becoming redundant. You do not need that anymore. Medical science will take care of that.
So sir, what do you suggest? We should forget what we learned?
I am not suggesting anything because whatever I will suggest will become another dependency for you. But that's what our minds want. Quick suggestions from somebody. I refuse to suggest anything. I just want to talk so that together we may come to something. What did he just say? I am capable and I place all my faith in myself. My suggestions have very little value, very little value. But this environment has great value. In this environment, you can think for yourself and not depend on my suggestions. By talking, we are creating a particular environment. So, what is creativity then? What is creativity? We have looked at what is it to be young. Now I want to ask you, what is creativity? What is creativity? Yes? So when you say different, I am thinking of different. New is something we will take up a little later. When you say creativity is about being different, you are already comparing. Can you say that I am different from somebody without comparing yourself to that person? Even to say that I am different, you have to make a comparison. And then this creativity is arising out of that comparison. What is creativity? Yes. Unique. Again comparison. How do you know you are unique? You look at others and you say, I am not like them, hence I am unique. So there is a comparison. What is real creativity? Innovation. What is innovation? What is innovation?
Ability to take imagination from the life.
What is innovation? Yes?
Creativity. Ability to take imagination from the life.
Alright. Let me.
Almost all of us, people who answered the question of creativity said doing something new or making your imagination come true. But my question is, how do you decide whether something is creative or not. I make some X object which I think will be creative, but to somebody else it is an ugly piece of work or maybe does not serve any purpose.
Yes, yes.
And how can I tell that I am creative or that particular piece of work is creative? Because in my life, this is something new, this is something unique, and what I imagine has been brought to life by me.
You are making an assumption that the piece of work is creative. I understand, it's a very deep assumption, but understand this please. What if creativity has nothing to do with what you have created? What if creativity has nothing to do with that object which you are calling as your piece of work? It's possible. Now we'll go into it. We'll go into this. What you call as creation comes from two different places. The first is creating from something, and that something is always either the influence of others or the influence of your own past. This strictly is not creation, this is just modification or reproduction. This is just modification or reproduction. This cannot even be called as creation. When you are creating from something, and that something happens to be, as we said, either others or your own past, then this creation is only mistakenly being called as creation. It is not really creation. It is modification. There is another creation where the creation happens from nothing. Creating from something and creating from nothing at all. This is real creation, but this creation is equally rare. It is real, rare, and the only thing that really makes the world go round. Creating not from your accumulated knowledge or the influence of others, but from a very still and silent mind. There is nothing. If somebody would ask you, how did this idea come to you, you would not be able to tell its source. If it is really, really creative. In fact, if it is really creative, you would not even be able to say that it is an idea. It would just be a happening. Just be a happening. That is real creativity. And because it is so daring that this creation does not happen from a background. Only a young man can do it. That is why youth and creativity always go together. An old man cannot be creative. Youth and creativity always go together. Creativity is the most daring adventure. It's a complete break from the past. It is something so new that it cannot even be compared.
That means that one fine day I get up in the morning and I just have a big happy meal and I decide that this is what came to my mind last night and this is what I'm going to make now, this is what I'm going to do now, and that has to become as being creative.
No, not really. For two reasons. One, what came to you in the night must result in a happening in the night itself. If you reserve it as a thought, as a memory, and want to implement it later on, it is no more creativity. Second thing, creativity does not suddenly happen. It is not an insight. It is not a flash. Creativity is your way of living. If you are living in an entirely uncreative way, one fine morning you cannot suddenly become creative. You cannot suddenly have a super thought when your entire life is uncreative.
Then sir, that is where you said if we are dependent on either other people's studies or works or whatever it is, or if we are dependent on our past experiences, we are not creative in the real sense. But now what you are saying is that if we are uncreative, we cannot be creative after waking up one fine day.
Yes.
These two things, I mean, I'm not able to connect with
They are contradictory.
They are in a way contradictory to me.
Where do you see the contradiction?
Sir, abhi you just said that it is basically my lifestyle. So when I'm making creativity my lifestyle, certainly I'm going to have certain experiences in the past that have been incorporated with my lifestyle, and I term my lifestyle as being creative.
Yes.
So,
There would be a lot of experiences, a lot of happenings, but there would be no dependency. Understand this. Second thing, to say I will make creativity my lifestyle is not really a proper statement. You do not make creativity your lifestyle. It's not something that you borrow from somewhere, not a training that you take from somewhere. It is something.
I can term my lifestyle as creative.
Yes.
But
And you are saying that a creative person too would have experiences. That's what you are saying?
yeah.
Yeah, obviously he will have experiences. So what?
That's where the role of experience comes into.
But those experiences will have no role. I'm having an experience right now as I talk to you. And in the afternoon I talk to some other people. This would be stored in some memory somewhere. This would not interfere with that discussion. In that discussion, I would not be dependent on this discussion. Are you getting it? In that, I would not be dependent on this.
Actually, you are going round and round about the same thing.
I'm not able to get to something else.
As you are listening to me right now, what would happen if you start thinking of your experiences in the morning? Would you be able to listen? This is it, as simple as that. The experience was there in the morning, correct? But is that experience really present right now? It is stored somewhere in the memory, let it be there. That experience is not influencing your life. And that is alright. That is the way it ought to be. And if your experience is really not needed, the brain knows what to do with it. Steadily, it will be deleted as it is. Not everything that you come across remains there. Goes on.
Sir, I have something to say. Sir, as you have said that this is creativity does not come all of a sudden. It is a way of living life. Sir, I have some confusion in this notion. Sir, actually this is that I think imagination derives that we imagine. For example, I imagine a structure, I imagine a building which is very different, and I actually saw in my dreams. For example, sir, I actually think that imagination comes in a flash. see, we'll say that